You're going to want to stay tuned because we've got a very important mission today. We're going to try out this four-door Badlands with a 2.3 liter inline four-cylinder coming in at 4,957 pounds. Don't just assume because that's a lot of weight and this is a small motor that it doesn't have the beans to put the pedal to the metal and give you a good ride. I've done that before and boy have I ever been wrong. So we need to test this out. Now we've also driven this Everglades with the same automatic four-cylinder 2.3 liter engine and powertrain, and well, it's a different story than the Badlands and we're going to discuss why. But first, let's hop into that Badlands and try it out. Now this Everglades is heavier than the Badlands because of the wheels you see here. Also, the winch in the front is not light, so the wheels, the tires, the winch, all of this adds weight to the vehicle. That front steel bumper even adds extra weight. Now the Badlands that we're about to go drive actually can handle quite well. It does come in lighter than the 2.7 liter, but not a huge difference. The four-cylinder we're driving today weighs in at 4,957 pounds, while the Badlands 2.7 liter six-cylinder engine weighs 5,109 pounds. Now it does have two turbos, that V6, so it is very powerful. We've owned two and we absolutely loved it. But let's jump into this four-cylinder Badlands. And yes, this is the high package, and of course the Badlands has got all the buttons up top. You've got stabilizer bar, disconnect. You can lock up the front diff, lock up the rear diff, and you've got trail turn assist. And that's where, well, you lock one rear wheel and it helps you basically turn on a dime. Now this has the leather, which I think is not necessary for the Badlands. The vinyl is great. We've had the vinyl, we've had the leather, both for almost an entire year, and the vinyl does a great job. Don't think you're cheaping out if you get it. Now keep in mind this does weigh less than the Everglades because less rotational mass due to lighter tires and lighter wheels, and you don't have that winch in the front. But we're going to test this. We're going to put the pedal to the metal. So hop on in. Let's test this out. Let's listen to that hard top to see if we find it too noisy. A lot of us assume that the four-cylinder in the Bronco doesn't have enough power. It's a big vehicle. It's got big wheels and it's heavy. We assume, well, the four-cylinder isn't going to have enough power. Just an assumption. Here I am testing it with the 10-speed automatic transmission, and I find it has plenty of power. It is a nice, decent, and little, yes, powertrain. 2.3 liters. It doesn't sound like much. Four-cylinder in this Bronco Badlands doesn't sound like much. But you know what? I like it. It's got enough pep. You put the pedal down and kicks back and gets you accelerating. Now the 2.7 liter is very impressive, and I wouldn't call this very impressive, but I'd say it does quite well the job. I think what a lot of us, I don't know, that's actually has a good amount of torque. It's very torquey, and a lot of us are asking ourselves the question with our orders, is the four-cylinder enough? And really what we should be looking at is the specs versus the weight, looking at it more, you know, science, data-based. When you look at the specs versus the weight, this has plenty of torque to get the job done. The pedal to the metal on the 2.3 liter is actually pretty fun, so I'm going to get back to testing it. It's a lighter vehicle, so that it only makes sense that it's just a little bit better in the bendies. So right now I'm going through a nice little bendy at 70, and I'm very impressed. I would be very much open to ordering one of these. I've always been hesitant on the Everglades, and I think it's more than capable with the 2.3. This is fun. This is fun to drive. I 100% approve. This gets my seal of approval all day, every day. I can't believe how wrong I was about this 2.3 liter. I feel silly. I had an emotional response to the 2.3 liter being in the Bronco, and I should have just been looking at the power to weight ratio. And this 2.3 liter is a good, reliable engine, and it's got tons of torque. I very much approve. I can't believe how wrong I was. So stay tuned. We got to talk about this some more. All right, so I was wrong about the four-cylinder Bronco, but a lot comes down to weight. So that's what I've discovered. So obviously, if you're going with a two-door base manual weighing only 4,294 pounds, almost 1,000 pounds lighter than a Badlands 2.7 liter, there is going to be a big difference in how you feel that power, how that power is actually applied to the wheels and pushes you forward. So a base 4-cylinder, or really any 2-door 4-cylinder, is going to go better than, let's say, the Everglades. So the Everglades, no choice, it's a 2.3 liter. And it was actually, if you're power hungry, if you like to put the pedal to the metal, that's not the model for you. It's going to get the job done, but it was very different than the experience I had with the Badlands. The Badlands actually felt plenty powerful enough for me, whereas the Everglades was missing a little. Not on initial takeoff, but mostly when you're trying to, pass on the highway. So I merged on the highway with this right here, the Everglades, and I merged on at 60 kilometers an hour. So about 35 miles per hour, 40 miles per hour. And I wanted to get up to 120 miles per hour to blend in and pass the slow lane. And it was just missing a little bit of power for that. Whereas in the Badlands, it felt like it was ample power. So a lot of that comes down to rotational weight with the wheels right here. How much weight you have on the wheels makes a big difference. And also the lift of a vehicle also makes a difference, because the higher the vehicle is jacked up or lifted, the more wind resistance you're gonna have and the worse fuel economy you're gonna have as well. And that's something else that I've noticed between these models when comparing window stickers and their, fuel economy. Having the Sasquatch package makes a big difference. We're talking about 2 or 3 liters difference per 100 kilometers when you're looking at, let's say, the exact same model, but let's say at Outer Banks, regular Outer Banks 4-door hardtop versus a Sasquatch Outer Banks 4-door or a Wild Track. Can be the same engine, but there's just a huge amount of power. And the fuel economy on the 2.3 liter, once you get up to an Everglades or really anything that's Sasquatched, there's not going to be a whole lot of fuel consumption difference between the 4-cylinder and the 6-cylinder, really making me feel like the 6-cylinder is not just an incredible bargain when it comes down to power, it's just actually very fuel efficient for the amount of power that it offers. And if you are going to Sasquatch and you do want to, when you put the pedal down, you really want to feel like the vehicle's taking off and is rather quite fast, you want the 2.7 liter. If, you're just going to drive this vehicle normally and you're not, a speed freak, putting the 2.3 liter engine on any Sasquatch package is fine. But I was actually surprised when it's on a Badlands, it actually felt fast and I enjoyed it. Meaning if I was driving a 2-door, I'd actually find it quite quick because it is lighter. So 2-door base manual, 4,294 pounds, at about 100 pounds for the automatic transmission. It's still going to feel really fast because the Badlands that we tried out came in at 4,957 pounds. Now let's talk a bit of tech specs. So the best place to get tech specs is actually the Ford Bronco Tech Specs Media Kit. So you can Google that up, but you've got both engines actually have some similarities. They're both twin independent variable camshaft timing engines. And what is pretty cool about that is that it's, the name given by Ford to engines with the ability to advance or retard the timing of both the intake and exhaust camshafts independently. Simply put, it's a motor that can help you both get the most out of fuel efficiency when you're being light on the pedal. If you're being hard on the pedal, it can squeeze out as much power possible. So really good setup in both cases. Both the compression ratio is 10-1. However, you've got the inline 4, which normally I'd say any engine that's inline is inherently better because it's balanced. It has a better chance of having a good long life because it's perfectly balanced. Whereas the 6-cylinder is in a V configuration. So you've got 3 cylinders on one side, 3 cylinders on the other side, and a turbo on each. And well, I do like inline, anything that's inline. I love an inline 6. However, the 2.7 liter EcoBoost I prefer because its its manner of feeding itself is through both port injection and direct injection. And direct injection on its own can lead to some traditionally, no matter what manufacturer builds builds an engine that's just direct injection, it's leading to carbon buildup. And that's right, the 4-cylinder is direct injection only. So long term, the 6-cylinder has a better chance just because of that. In both cases, you've got connecting rods that are forged steel. In both cases, the pistons are actually pretty impressive. They're lightweight, high strength, cast aluminum with low friction skirt coating and steel ring. So that's a good setup. It's a setup to take power. And you've got, of course, the crankshaft is forged steel, so that's also good. And well, the engine itself is aluminum. So the 4-cylinder is high pressure die cast aluminum alloy, and the 6-cylinder twin turbo is compacted graphite iron. And actually the compact graphite iron is the same material used on the diesel 6.7 liter. So that is going to be an unbelievably strong block. And the block on the 4-cylinder being die cast aluminum, I don't expect it to have the type of issues that the 5.4 liter V8 had back in the 2000s. I've owned a couple of those trucks and they came with their challenges. They weren't the best setup, but the 2.3 liter, I've owned it before in Mustangs. I've actually had a lot of vehicles over the years. I've had some built engines, and you know what's impressive? I've had built engines in my vehicles before. I've even have had swapped engines in my vehicles, such as a 6-cylinder Toyota MR2. I've had a Japanese swapped Subaru. And, you know, back in the day, the type of material that is going into these engines, either the 2.3 liter or the 6-cylinder, is the type of material you only dreamed of. You know, forged steel crankshaft, you know, you've got those connecting rods and the crankshaft actually that are forged steel. Pistons that are lightweight, high strength, cast aluminum with low friction skirt coating and steel ring. This is all fantastic setups for both of these engines. And there's not even much of a weight difference between the two engines. So don't think that, you know, there's a huge weight difference and you're better off in regards to handling with the 2.3 liter. Mind you, who buys a Bronco for handling? It's more about off-road. And that's why a lot of people don't mind so much that the fuel economy is not top notch, which should change down the road when we get a plug-in Bronco. Hopefully that's coming down the road. It should be coming down the road. We just don't know when yet. But the thing to remember is the big difference in how you're going to feel that power is in regards to the vehicle being lifted, as well as the rotational weight of the tire and mags. So Sasquatch 4-cylinder, it gets the job done, but if you feel like you're missing power, real simple solution, you might want to buy that 4-cylinder, and if you're missing power, just have it tuned. So the Ford Performance Tune costing under $1,000 US will actually add 60 pound-feet of torque and will make the machine fly. So with the need to order up a Bronco right now if you want one, because order banks open March 27th, 2023 for the 2023 Bronco, and spots will sell really quickly. I really do hope that this video is really helping you decide between the 4-cylinder and the 6-cylinder, and I think the 4-cylinder is a fantastic option. Now, we've driven off-road and on-road both models, and off-road the 4-cylinder does a fantastic job. Because of the turbo, it's got a lot of low end torque, so it's a great off-road option. It's a more fuel efficient option until you throw on the Sasquatch package. Once you throw on the Sasquatch package, there's not a huge difference between the 2.7 liter and the 4-cylinder. The difference is actually small. Where the real economy possibilities are for fuel efficiency, for example, is to take an Outer Banks, which is not lifted, does not have oversized tires, and have that with a 4-cylinder, and you will be saving money on fuel. But if your goal is to have a great off-roader, you can Sasquatch package a 2.3 liter 4-cylinder because it's going to behave a lot like a Jeep 6-cylinder, non-turbo. So Jeep has a non-turboed engine. We've driven it extensively. We almost bought Jeeps on several occasions, and we even did a review on a Jeep that we never even published, but the 4-cylinder is very much like the 6 from the Jeep, and Ford's 6 is, well, unbeatable. Welcome to Johnny's Car Care and Reviews. Today we're going to be looking at the Jeep Gladiator. Unless you get a Jeep's 392, which is unbelievably expensive and extremely powerful and noisy, but is also horrible on fuel. So I feel the 6-cylinder, if you're looking for power, is an incredible option, and the Bronco is absolutely worth waiting for. We've had so much fun with our Broncos. The suspension is really one of the big advantages over the Jeep, but also the 6-cylinder for those looking for power is a big advantage over the Jeep as well, because it doesn't cost much to get. At Jeep, if you want something with power, you're going to either need to go with that incredible low-end torque of the plug-in 4-cylinder, or all the way up to the 392 V8. I would absolutely avoid the regular 6-cylinder in the Jeep. If you're looking for power, it is going to be, you know, a little lackluster. Just like you'll be missing a little bit if you go with the 4-cylinder on a Sasquatch, unless you tune, and the tune doesn't cost much. So I think the Bronco is worth waiting for. Good lightweight engines that you've got there. And when both are running on 87 octane, let's compare power numbers. This is where I should have known that the 4-cylinder in most instances would be plenty of power, because this is actually quite nice. 275 horsepower out of the 4-cylinder engine, 315 pound-feet of torque. However, if you put in premium fuel, you're going to get 300 horsepower and 325 pound-feet of torque. And the torque, all of it is available at 3,400 RPM. All the way to when you max it out, whereas the 4-cylinder on regular fuel, you're running at 315 horsepower and 410 pound-feet of torque at 3,250 RPM, so relatively low. You put the pedal down and you get that instant kickback on both engines. And the horsepower, when running premium fuel on that twin-turbo V6, is 330 horsepower and 415 pound-feet of torque at 3,100 RPM, all the way to when you max out the power. So in both cases, these are fun engines. It's just the 4-cylinder is more fun when when you have it on a lighter configuration with less rotational mass. So it's great on the Badlands, and it was missing for myself. I'm power hungry. It was missing just a bit when it was matted to the Everglades, big old wheels. So that's unfortunate, but it's good to know. So that's what you need to know for the Bronco. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know in the comment section, what did you think about that stock 4-cylinder exhaust under acceleration? Did that sound good to you? I actually found it sound quite good. Ford has done a good job with that 2.3 liter engine. It sounds incredible for a 4-cylinder, and it sounds actually, you know, compared to any engine, very good. So they've got a good engine in there. You've got long-term reliability out of both of these engines. They're proven setups. They've been proven in vehicles, you know, the 2.3 liter going back to the Mustang, as well as the Focus RS, and while the 6-cylinder, that 2.7 liter has been used in the F-150, basically the exact same, more or less the same setup. So you've got good engines in both cases. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe to help support this channel and help dress and feed those poodles. Until next time, I wish you all more cars and more power. I'll certainly be coming back with more information on more cars and more power, so stay tuned. Hit that bell notification. Take care, everyone. Have a great week. Now, before going anywhere, please leave a comment on whether you plan on ordering a Bronco, whether you've been waiting on a Bronco, which engine, do you think the 4-cylinder is enough for you? And please do check out one of these other videos. Until next time, take care, everybody.